History is not only about what happened, it is also about what was written, what was erased, and what generations were taught. Tonight we examine some of the greatest false narratives ever spread about Africa.
They said Africa had no history before outsiders came. They said Africa had no science, no kingdoms, no written records. They said civilization arrived from somewhere else. But evidence tells a different story.
The greatest lies against Africa,
repeated for centuries as historical fact.
the greatest lies against Africa,
While monuments, manuscripts, and cities stood intact.
the greatest lies against Africa, ignoring achievements that change humanity. The greatest lies against Africa,
Now challenged by research, evidence, and reality. One of the biggest falsehoods claimed Africa was a continent without civilization. Yet long before European colonial expansion, powerful states existed across the continent. Ancient Egypt developed monumental architecture, mathematics, engineering, and administration. Nubian kingdoms ruled vast territories along the Nile. The Kingdom of Kush produced kings and queens who governed regional empires in West Africa, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Controlled trade networks linking vast regions. Timbuktu became known for scholarship, libraries, and learning. Thousands of manuscripts survived, discussing law, astronomy, medicine, mathematics, and religion. Another common claim suggested Africans lacked written traditions. Historical evidence shows multiple systems of writing and record-keeping. G's manuscripts flourished in Ethiopia. African scholarship spread through many African centers of learning. Indigenous methods of preserving historical knowledge were maintained through oral historians, griots, royal archives, and community traditions. Knowledge was recorded in many forms, not only through European standards. Another narrative claimed Africa contributed little to global development, yet African gold fueled international economies for centuries. African agricultural knowledge influenced farming systems worldwide. African metallurgy produced sophisticated iron-working traditions. Trade routes connected African societies with regions across the Mediterranean, Middle East, and Asia. Africa participated in global exchange long before modern colonial borders existed.
they hid the stories, they ignored the records, they overlooked the achievements, but history remains. The greatest lies against Africa,
Repeated for centuries as historical fact.
the greatest lies against Africa,
While monuments, manuscripts, and cities stood intact.
the greatest lies against Africa, ignoring achievements that change humanity. The greatest lies against Africa,
Now challenged by research, evidence, and reality. Another major misconception portrayed Africa as permanently isolated from the rest of the world. Historical records demonstrate extensive interaction between African societies and neighboring regions. Merchants crossed the Sahara, sailors traveled to Indian Ocean. Cities along the Swahili Coast became centers of commerce, linking Africa with Arabia, Persia, India, and beyond. Goods, technologies, and ideas moved through these networks for generations. Colonial narratives often emphasize division while minimizing African political organization. Yet many African societies established systems of governance, diplomacy, taxation, military organization, and law. The Kingdom of Benin developed remarkable urban planning and artistic traditions. Great Zimbabwe constructed impressive stone architecture. Ethiopia maintained state institutions across centuries. Numerous societies adapted to changing circumstances through innovation and leadership. Perhaps one of the most damaging myths suggested African history began with colonialism. In reality, African history stretches across thousands of years. Human origins are deeply connected to Africa. Archaeological discoveries continue to reveal technological achievements, cultural developments, and social complexity that existed long before foreign occupation. Read the records, study the evidence,
examine the discoveries.
history belongs to
Everyone,
facts survive propaganda.
truth survives generations. The story of Africa
Is larger.
older and richer than the myths.
Libraries may burn,
Empires may fall,
maps may change,
narratives may shift,
but archaeology,
manuscripts,
oral traditions,
and scholarship continue to reveal the depth of Africa's historical legacy. The greatest lies against Africa
were never stronger than the evidence.
The monuments remain.
The manuscripts remain.
The manuscripts. The manuscripts,
when examined honestly, speaks for itself.
Africa built the first universities. Africa mapped the first stars. The world was taught to forget this. Every lie had an author. Every author had a motive. This is the record.
They wrote the books, they controlled the schools. They decided what was history and what were the rules. The parchment was theirs, the printing press was theirs. They buried African truth under fabricated ears. These are the greatest lies against Africa,
written in textbooks, taught in every class.
the continent that built the ancient world.
Was told it had no civilized past.
These are the greatest lies against Africa,
Documented, deliberate, designed to last. In 450 BC, the Greek historian Herodotus traveled to Egypt and documented black Africans building monumental architecture along the Nile. European scholars in the 18th and 19th centuries reclassified ancient Egyptians as non-African to sever Egypt from its continental origin. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach in 1795 created racial classification systems that placed Africans at the bottom of a fabricated human hierarchy with no scientific basis. The University of Timbuktu, known as Sankore, operated in Mali from the 11th century and housed over 700,000 manuscripts covering mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and law. European colonial administrators after 1884 systematically destroyed, confiscated, and relocated African manuscripts, artifacts, and institutional records to European museums and archives. The British burned the Benin Royal Library during the 1887 punitive expedition and removed over 3,000 bronze artworks which remain in European collections today. France removed an estimated 90% of Mali's historical archives during colonial occupation between 1880 and 1960. During anthropologist Carsten Niebuhr falsely attributed Great Zimbabwe stone structures to Phoenician and Arabian builders in the 19th century, refusing to credit the Shona people of southern Africa. Archaeologists confirmed in 1929 and again in 1971 through structural and carbon dating analysis that Great Zimbabwe was built entirely by indigenous African people between 100 and 1450 AD.
They wrote the books, they controlled the schools. They decided what was history and what were the rules. The parchment was theirs, the printing press was theirs. They buried African truth under fabricated ears. These are the greatest lies against Africa,
Written in textbooks, taught in every class.
this continent that built the ancient world.
Was told it had no civilized past.
These are the greatest lies against Africa.
Documented, deliberate, designed to last. Look up. The dark continent phrase was popularized by journalist Henry Morton Stanley in his 87A book and was adopted by European governments to justify colonial invasion as a civilizing mission. Africa had over 10,000 distinct states and political entities before European colonization, according to the African Union's 2006 historical review of pre-colonial governance. The Kingdom of Kush in modern Sudan conquered and governed Egypt as the 25th dynasty from 744 BC to 656 BC, a documented historical fact absent from most Western school curricula. The Mali Empire under Mansa Musa in 1324 controlled 50% of the world's gold supply, and Musa's personal wealth has been estimated by economists to $400 billion in adjusted value. European racial science journals published between 1840 and 1920 contain fabricated skull measurements and IQ studies designed to justify slavery and colonial labor extraction, not to document actual human biology. Samuel Morton's 1839 craniometry studies were reviewed by scientist Stephen J. Gold in 1978,
who found Morton had manipulated data to produce predetermined conclusions about African intellectual inferiority. UNESCO's 1964 General History of Africa project, involving 350 African scholars, produced 8 volumes documenting African civilizations that remain excluded from standard global history education programs.
Africa had iron smelting 2,000 2,000 years before Europe. Africa had universities 500 years before Oxford. Africa had written law before Rome wrote its constitution. These are documented facts. These are not opinions.
Yeah, the lies were not accidents. The Académie Française issued directives in 1883 instructing colonial educators to present Africa as historically primitive to reduce resistance to French colonial rule.
British colonial education policy documents from 1925,
known as the Phelps-Stokes Report, explicitly recommended limiting African students to vocational training and excluding them from classical academic subjects.
These policies produced generations of Africans and non-Africans who were educated to believe Africa had no history worth studying. The documents exist, the directives exist, the evidence is archived.